Yo guys, it's Vin, and this is everything you need to know about the new Brawlhalla balance patch 5.11 in 4 minutes or less. And by the way, if I don't mention something, then it wasn't changed. Gauntlet Sair has less force, and Gauntlet Recovery has less stun, meaning that follow-ups such as Nair and Dare off of it are less consistent. And Nair actually does more damage than before, but since it has less stun, the Gauntlet's 3-piece is no longer a true combo anymore. Greatsword Sidelight Opener has improved setup location when you dash with it, meaning that reading with dash or chase dodge endlight is a lot more consistent. However, all of the finishers have less force. Katars Sidelight does less damage and has less dash impulse. Side Air has less force, less active frames, and more recovery frames. Dare has a smaller damage range now, but Endlight did get buffed. It has more stun and a better setup location, meaning that if they have no dodge, Endlight recovery is more consistent of a kill confirm. However, no matter what decks you're on, Endlight D-Light is still jumpable. However, 5 decks is still the minimum threshold to get true combos off of Sidelight, meaning that Queen Nai is still the worst legend in the game. Spear Sair has less recovery frames. Sword Nair has more recovery frames and less drift, meaning that when you actually do something like this with momentum, you're committing to it and you can't drift the opposite direction if you see you're gonna miss. Dare also has less drift, less force, less stun, and increased recovery time on miss. However, the 3-piece downlight Dare into jump recovery combo is still true. However, it's just not as useful anymore because it works at later percents and you might as well just D-Light recovery anyway. Also, the 3-piece D-Light Dare into GC Endlight or Platform Endlight still works. Exhausted Sword Recovery has decreased damage, but this doesn't really mean anything because it actually now does the same amount of damage as a normal recovery. I don't know why it did more than a normal recovery before, but that's besides the point. Unarmed Endlight has more startup. Hattori Sword Sidesig has more stun on the final part of the attack and significantly less recovery frame on hit, not if you miss. Koji Bow D-Sig has a slightly decreased hitbox and more startup, however it is still extremely good, and I just want to mention that his Sword D-Light Nsig is still a true combo. Core Hammer Nsig has decreased recovery frames, but more startup, meaning that D-Light Nsig is no longer true. Greatsword D-Sig has less force, does less damage, and has more startup. Mordex Gauntlet D-Sig has more recovery frames if you miss. Both Onyx Gauntlet D-Sig and her Cannon Sidesig have more recovery on miss and a slightly smaller hitbox. Petra Orb Nsig has increased recovery frames. Rayman Axe Sidesig has more recovery on miss, and Axe D-Sig has less force, increased startup, and increased recovery on hit and miss. However, it does still have that really niche 3-part true combo, which is D-Sig into Sidelight Nair. I know I didn't hit it true there, but trust me, it is. Rayman, Gauntlet, Nsig, and Sidesig have more damage and increased force on the non-held versions of the Sig. Hammer Nsig has more recovery, and Hammer D-Sig has significantly less recovery. Teros Hammer Nsig does more damage but has more startup, meaning that D-Light Nsig is no longer a true combo, and his Hammer Sidesig will hit slightly less behind you now. Teros Axe D-Sig has increased recovery frames. Thatch Blaster Nsig has more startup, meaning that D-Light Dash Endlight is no longer a true combo. Val Sword Nsig has slightly more recovery frames on miss and a smaller hitbox, however you can still hit grounded and you can still jump out of it or like GC or whatever. Volkov Scythe Sidesig for both the active input and non-active input versions of the Sig, it has less stun, and the active input version, which is this one, has less force. Ulgrim Lance Sidesig has less recovery time on the grounded landing. I'm not really sure what grounded landing means, but it says less recovery time. Anyway guys, those are all the changes in the new 5.11 back to school event patch. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the patch, and if you don't, feel free to discuss in the comments. I'd love to have a discussion with you guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!